Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
Hello, everybody. This is Sandy, and welcome to Last First Date Radio. This is the place to be for creating healthy, lasting relationships in midlife. And today I am honored to be speaking with Paradis about power struggles in relationships and how you can reduce friction and learn to respect and love each other. In my 10 years as a life and dating coach, what I know for sure is that if you work on identifying and healing the unhealthy patterns from your past and honoring and valuing all parts of yourself, especially the parts that people told you were too much or were not enough, you are going to transform your love life and become the woman of value who attracts in toe-curling epic love. And every week I bring you a tip on how to become that woman of value. This week's tip is step number 17, which is if you want something, ask for it. That sounds kind of obvious, right? But most people do not ask for what they want, and I know I was one of those people. And I think for me, just gaining core confidence in knowing that if I don't ask, I don't receive, I started asking more and more, and most of the time people said yes. And if they say no, at least you tried. But you don't get anything if you ask for nothing. So before I get to Andre, I wanted to just let you know that if you are not yet a member of my private Facebook group, which is called Your Last First Date, you need to join this group. We have about 2,400 members. It is a highly moderated group so that if you are single and over 40 or in a relationship and over 40, you will be supported. It is a positive place. We do not let relationship questions go off the rails. There is no man-bashing or complaining ad nauseum. This is a place for self-growth and for learning. So if that interests you, I invite you to apply to join Your Last First Date. All right, now I'm going to introduce our special guest today. Andre Paradis is a certified life coach, entrepreneur, business owner, and artist, and he teaches singles and couples how to create and maintain successful relationships. He's the founder of Project Equinox, and he helps couples reduce power struggles by teaching them how to understand each other better, communicate effectively, and negotiate differences. Join me now for episode number 306, How Our Culture Gets Love Wrong, with Andre Paradis. Welcome, Andre.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good afternoon.
Wherever
right.
you are.
We're on the East Coast, yes.
Yes, I am. And you're out in California, correct?
Yes, in Los Angeles.
So let's talk about your very interesting life. On your website, you call it Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3.
Yes.
And you've had quite a varied, interesting background. So if you can share a little bit about your journey and what brought you to the work you do today.
Oh, God, that's a loaded question. Seriously, the first step is probably, in it for sure, is my family settings. And it's strange, a little bit strange, because as a kid, I felt like I was born in the wrong family, which was a little bit confusing and strange. But what happened, as soon as I could sort of wrap my head around why or how that's possible, I started observing people, my family first, but I out of trying to explain my circumstances, I became an observant of life and people, like all people. So that probably was the big catalyst. Like I was sort of always doing that, and the more interesting, the more unusual, if you want, people were, the more interesting I was in them. And how'd you get to be like you, and how does that happen? And, you believe in that? That's, so that was a paradigm of me in the world that was always inquisitive, curious about life and people and how they get to be. So that was one. As an adult, I went to a private high school, started dancing as a teenager. I became a ballroom dancer, and then morphed into a career with commercial dancing. So I moved to Los Angeles in my late teens and became a commercial jazz dancer. So I worked with Michael Jackson and Prince and Paula Abdul and all these big hitters. Traveled the world teaching, dancing, choreographing, producing shows. Fantastic stuff for 15 years. And then eventually my wife's also a dancer. She's a prima ballerina. We met in the business, and we wanted to start a family. We've been together, married for 7 years, and wanted to start a family. So I decided to stop traveling. I decided to stay grounded in Los Angeles. I wanted the work to keep me local, and in order to do so, I opened a body shop. From dancing around the world to fixing cars. I come from that background. My dad owned a chain of brick and muffler shops when I was a kid. So I have 3 other brothers, just 4 of us males, who are all crazy car guys. So it fit right into my life. In Los Angeles, there's a lot of old cars. I come from the East Coast where they don't exist anymore. So my idea was to restore old cars. It was a passion of mine for years and years. So that was phase 2 of my life, to stay grounded, to start a family, to build a steady income business to sustain my family life. However, I'm the ultimate teacher and the observant of life and people. And so about 10 years ago, quite by accident, I ended up in a workshop with Alison Armstrong, which I know you know. Mm-hmm. And it was a workshop called Understanding Women, which I was invited to join. And that day kind of changed my life completely, because in the study with my brain, with wanting to being curious with all things, human, to sit in the workshop Understanding Women was, tantalizing. And what I learned that day was it was a 2-day seminar, squeezed into one day, and I literally I ended up in my brains all over the walls. I could not believe the things that I've learned. I could not believe the things that I didn't know. And I came home, my wife said I was white as a ghost. I was actually upset because by then we'd been married about 11 years. The kids were teeny tiny. And I realized in that day, all the things that I did not know that was occurring from my wife, like the way she's wired, what she takes personally, why she takes things personally, how my action or lack of action, she would make a meaning out of things without any intentions of mine. You know what I mean? Like the things that you take personally, as like all of that. When I saw the calibration, the size of that, I freaked out. I completely freaked out because the rest of my family, everybody's divorced and remarried 2 and 3 times. My wife is my angel. She's the one. I am not missing this out. I mean, so in that sort of setting, to me, it was too scary to go through life not knowing this stuff and risk our relationship just from not knowing. So that was how all this started. Whew. Phase 3 of my life. Phase 3 of my life, I've been, now I'm a relationship coach and helping people, doing what I've done and doing what I do with my wife and all the learnings, that I've accumulated the past few years. Fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Wow, quite a background. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. And
sure. I love that.
That you went to Alison Armstrong's seminar. And Understanding Women was not what she started with. She started with Understanding Men, and what's so interesting is that her work just fascinates me because we really don't understand each other. And it's in my work, this is what I teach as well. It's the communication skills, the fact that we are not made of the same thing, that we are so different. And even today I was just on a call with a coaching group that I lead every month. And we were talking about who pays on a date. And all the women are wealthy and said, I'm not comfortable receiving anything from men. And
ouch.
Yeah, so they don't. It was a really beautiful discussion on, what a man, how a man feels like a man and how emasculating it can be to take away from a man the ability to provide, to protect, to give. And I mean, Alison just taught this class on giving and receiving that I just took over the weekend. It's just fascinating. I think that the more we know about anybody who's different from us, let alone men and women, but the fact that we don't all operate in the same way, and just asking questions, getting curious, getting to know each other from their perspective, checking in, so important.
Absolutely. It's interesting because what you just said about men, not being allowed to provide. I find it interesting because it's such an instinctual. This is the part that most people miss. But it's such an instinctual thing. You don't have to manipulate men to provide and protect women. You don't have to manipulate men to want to take care of women and children and the things that are important in life. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's instinctual stuff. So it's funny. I understand when my clients do the same thing when they're strong, independent, and powerful women, and they could pay for anything. It's fantastic. But what occurs to a man who's interested in a woman like this, for men, for us, it's a movement towards you that is the part that that kind of makes us fall for you, right? It's like, I'm going to step towards you and sort of trying to add to the quality of your life. You've heard men say stuff like, I bought you this because I thought it would make you happy, right? Like, it's a movement towards you that we think we want to be part of, adding to the quality of your life. Not take over, So there's a lot of people, men want to make women happy, and I like Dr. John Gray says, well, no, men want to make women happier, right? It's different. It's adding to the life. So when a woman says, I'm not comfortable with you paying for my dinner or for paying for anything, you basically are just telling him you don't want him. You're keeping him from doing what he wants to do to step into your life. So you basically are telling him that you don't want him. You'll take that personally and very clearly as a message that you're not interested in him. It's not about the money. It's about keeping him from coming towards you and trying to add to your life. Subtle and very, very misunderstood.
Yeah, I think there is something, and I spoke about this today, about investment. There's an emotional investment, there's a financial investment, there's a sexual investment. There are all ways that we invest in each other to build equity in the relationship. And from my experience, women really need to have emotional safety to open up and be vulnerable and be totally open. And then there's this dynamic of men creating emotional safety by investment. Can you speak to that?
Well, it's the same. It's the same. Similar that was just like that I just said, like the coming towards you and you being vulnerable enough to receive is how he knows he's on track. You see, so it starts with dinner, but it'll start. It's funny because I tell my clients, especially when you start dating a man, a lot of women make the mistake of like showing up with their, what's the word? They're conquering, sit across on a date and tell him everything that you're doing in life and your business and your power and your money and all the stuff that's fantastic about you. That's, you know what I mean? And usually that falls flat because that's not what he's interested in, right? It's interesting about you, but that's not why he's interested in you. He's usually interested in you because there's something about you that went, wow, look at her, right? Like there's something intriguing, there's something a little enchanting about you. So he's investigating who you are. And really what he's looking for is to see if a guy is looking for a relationship, and they all are if they're actually asking you out. They're looking into who you are because they're interested in moving towards you. They want to know, men want to know if you're fit in their lives. I mean, are you fun? Are you going to add to the quality of his life? Are you going to be receptive to him? Are you going to be able to, let him be himself in the sense that do you get what he's up to and what his quirks are and what he's up to in the world like that. So he's looking to see, how you fit into his life. So what happened is and I think I'm moving away from the question you asked me, but I think it's interesting that if you're not vulnerable enough to let him sort of ask questions of you to find out who you are and how you may fit, that keeps him from like grasping onto the part that think you're interested, and that he wants then a second date because you feel vulnerable enough to like let him in. Do you see what I mean? So it's not about your money, your business. It's about what turns you on, what's interesting for you, like why do you get up in the morning for? What are you passionate about? Like what are the things, right? And typically for men, they're looking for the part that is more either spiritual or more like connected to the world and more like from the heart, you know, because we have all that for ourselves already. The money and the business is all, you know. One thing that men are looking for most in women, and they don't typically know how to say this because it's more of a feeling to their thought process, is that, you know, men are always in their heads. We're always thinking. We're always in the future. And if you're, you know, you're always in a planning and plotting. And women, too, but it's different. And so what happened when you're in the presence of a woman, and especially a feminine woman, you bring us presence. Like, whew, like, oh, like I'm here. Like I'm completely here with you. Right, and that's what men are looking for with women. Like, is to bring me like here now and like engage with you and connected and out of my head where I'm numb in my head. With you, I feel alive. Like, especially if you're tantalizing and interesting and you know, flirty and all that stuff. That's what men are looking for, not your power. Right, that's interesting, but that's later. In the beginning, it's you. It's you. So I'm sorry, I think I kind of went way off.
No, it's always a great conversation to talk about the feminine energy, and I think that it's so misunderstood, and women often think they have to be accepted for who they are, and I'm going to show up as I am in my masculine because that's who I am. Yeah. And it's such a misunderstood thing. I think that that's who they are to survive in the work world.
Right.
But it's not the same thing that helps them to connect in the romantic world. And we need that polarity. We need to lead with the feminine and not suppress the masculine altogether. And I think, you know, we all have masculine and feminine in us. And it's the attraction that's built because a woman has something a man doesn't have and a man has something a woman doesn't have. Which brings me to dating today, which I think in general, it's very confusing. Women have more power than they ever had. Men are finding their emotional side in ways that they haven't in the past. There are many men's groups. There are men who are emotionally able to, you know, have a high EQ. And so I think, you know, men and women are sort of becoming almost androgynous. And so what do you have to say about the culture today?
Well, you know, it's funny because everyone I talk to, men and women, you know, have this, and I get it. The idea that this is the best time in the world, in the history of mankind to be alive, because we've finally empowered women, right, rightfully so. And we sort of like soften the man or feminize the man or made him more emotional, right? Like we keep bringing them down to their hearts. And I think that's actually what men and women do to each other, right? Like if you put a couple together, that's typically a woman who will sort of like bring some sensitivities to a man's life and go, babe, you know, that's a little too much. And the part that you bring to us is the part that we're missing naturally. And same for us, we'll protect you, provide you, we'll come around with, I got this, don't worry about it, like make you feel safe. Like that happens naturally. But so what happened in the culture when you empower women too much, because I think it's gone too far. It's really one of the things that complicated. And I don't mean too far as far as being in the world, but you can't lead with masculine with men. You know, men don't date men, and there's a reason for that typically, right? Like what men are looking for is your feminine side. So like in the dating world, when you know, if you show up masculine and he shows up feminine, we kind of flip the script completely. And so most women aren't attracted to feminine men or soft men because they don't feel safe with them. And most masculine men aren't interested in masculine women because they actually find them irritating. And that's the word they use. I hate to say this, but that's the word they use. Like they find them irritating. They're you know, like man on man, and that's not interesting to pretty guys. So I understand that we switch the roles in our culture again, to sort of even out the scores, but in love relationships and dating and in long-term relationship, it's destroying the possibilities. It flips the script too far. So with my clients, what I do is what I think most people don't even understand is that you get to choose how you show up. You can be masculine at work all day long. It's fantastic because that's the only way to actually produce results and get ahead. Way to go. You can be masculine with your friends. That's going to sometimes, there'll be friction, but it doesn't, there's not a whole lot of residue behind that. But if you're going to be masculine with men, it's not going to work. Not if you want a masculine man and a man who's going to step up. Like the ladies, my clients always say, men don't step up. Men must step. Well, you've already stepped up. There's nothing to step up to. You won't let him, or he's not allowed, or you think he should step up to you. Right, like in a sense where he's going to do it your way, and that's not working. And again, if you flip it the other way, women are not attracted to soft, and I want to say meek, but men who don't really have their stuff together. Because what's happened in the culture as we soften the men or make them more sensitive is they don't really step up to their own lives. They can't even take care of themselves. Never mind a woman and build a family. They can't. So women are left with this is it? Where are the men? We went too far.
Right.
See it?
Yeah. So can you give a few tips as to how this dynamic can change?
Well, like I said, most people, men and women, I don't really or haven't put together, they actually can pick their energy they show up with. So one of my clients right now is, strong, independent, powerful corporate lady, is been alone now for about 15 years, and as she's getting older, wants companionship and all the goodies. So my practice with her, what I have her practice is she's masculine at work, she has to, but the moment she steps in the car, she has a set of things to do to flow her back into her feminine. So we start with music, really kind of brings her around in her body, right? She'll start singing in the car. And for some, I have them because whatever it is, every woman is going to be different. But for some ladies, it's literally to change her shoes, right? To go from flats to high heels is some kind of pump. Just go to the grocery store, they feel feminine. Oh, right? So whatever will actually shift your energy so you could sort of, consciously, purposely just shift from being masculine and show up with result-oriented as opposed to feminine and open. It's the openness of the feminine that attracts men. So I say when you're out in public, at lunch, anywhere, flip the switch because it's that simple. Flip the switch. And then men will see you. Because when you stay in your masculine, men don't see you. No matter what you look like, how pretty you are, when your energy is masculine, men don't see you. They don't respond to you. You're invisible to most. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, I felt invisible my whole life, and it's probably for this reason. I actually was mistaken for a boy for many years because I wore my hair really short. I wore very kind of androgynous clothing. I wanted to suppress any attention given to my sexuality for a long time because I wanted to be seen for who I was. And then, as a result, I was seen as the guy, I'm the guy friend.
There you go.
Yeah, I was tough, cursed a lot, just put up the whole front. And it took a lot for me to switch that off. We're actually doing a full day training on this coming up in late summer because just for really super successful women who really resist surrendering to love. And I'm giving the training with a woman who does a lot of body work and helps women to really sink into their feminine on a body level, more of a physical level. I'm going to be doing more of the understand men and feminine energy and all that stuff. So, I'm excited about that.
Fantastic.
So this is really the culture. So when you say how our culture gets it wrong, is this what you're referring to, this dynamic?
That's exactly what I'm referring to. Yeah. It's just gone too far. It was the intention was great, and it's done a lot of great, but in love dynamics, it's gone. It just put things completely awry. It doesn't work at all. It doesn't work at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Both men and women are complaining that they can't find, So.
Yeah, I so agree with you. This is such an important conversation. And I always say, like, what happens is a lot of women who were married to men who were like mama's boys and didn't step up, they overperformed. They overdid it, and because of that, there's a lack of trust that if they step back and allow a man to show up, he's not going to. Right. And so this is the big switch, I think, is that you have to create that space, and you have to also ask for what you want, like I said at the beginning of the show. I have women telling men that they're really attracted to men who take care of them, even though they can take care of themselves. Men who, make them feel safe, even though they are strong and independent. Just to say it out loud. I mean, I think it's important to communicate all that, because otherwise we don't know what the other one's thinking.
Well, and you know what I come across a lot, which is really talk about getting it wrong. And I don't mean to be condescending. It's just that because of the culture, because we've been pushing women to excel and push and be successful for the past 30, 40 years, that most of my clients actually believe that men want successful, powerful, women, and they think they're attracted to that, and that's not true. It's interesting, but that's not what they're attracted to. They're not attracted to your power. They're not attracted to your masculine. They're not attracted to that. So when just to get that on their radar, they go, well, what do you mean? They don't want me to be. They don't want us to be like dependent on them. They don't want us to be weak. They don't want us to. They don't. Like I have everything, so that he doesn't need to do anything. And I go, that's the problem for a man, because it's the part of, again, what I said earlier. Like he wants to make your life better, which means there has to be need for him in your life. There has to be space. You have to be vulnerable to let him show up, let him do what men do, and ask for things that you need, and he'll puff up like that man, just that you want him to help, that you allow him to help, and some guys don't even experience that. My wife is fantastic because she's in line with everything I'm doing and is watching the same thing in the culture, and I have a 15-year-old daughter who's in this world that I'm sort of putting on her radar, really the dynamic that works as opposed to the one that doesn't work that is around us, and to smile at the clerk in line at the store, to smile at any man anywhere you see him puff up, just because you see them or thank them for holding the door or sort of getting out of the way when she's come down with her whatever, right? Like just to recognize men's actions, small little stuff. You see them just puff up, like they were your hero for a second. Like it's such instinctual stuff. So to not ask for men's help, to refuse to let men step up and be part of, it's a big disservice to women, because you're left feeling alone and disconnected and unsafe, with these men. That it's funny because I do something with my clients sometimes, because some men have been shamed out of being masculine. So they were shamed out of going towards women. They were shamed out of don't do anything, don't lean on her, don't tell her what to do, right? Like, because that's rude, right? So they don't do anything, which leaves women feeling like no one cares, right? And he can't do anything. He's not doing anything. So I say to my clients stuff like this, like, well, turn on the feminine, make sure, smile and attract a guy with your feminine energy, right? And if you do, fantastic. And when you do, hopefully he picks you up and all that stuff. And you'll notice the guys that have been shamed out of the masculine, because they don't really do much, right? So, but I said, if he picks you up, when you walk to the car, just stand outside the car. He'll get in the car because he's used to not doing that, right? So he'll sit in the car and wonder what you're doing outside, and then in 3 seconds he's gonna go, oh darn, right? He'll jump out of the car, come around, open the door, and he's gonna go, here's one who gets it, right? Get to the restaurant and stand by the door, and he's gonna walk in, and he's used to not doing that because he's shamed out of it, and not everybody, but it's really, really in the culture right now. Stand by the door. Don't touch the door handle. And watch him open the door for you. And all of a sudden, you're inviting him to do the stuff that's natural to him that most guys have been shamed out of. And you could train him back, and I hate to say it that way, but it's a way of like give him permission to be the man and watch him puff up, and you'll literally recultivate the part of man, all man, because you can do this anywhere with anyone, that makes him sort of step up. And the part that you will not only find flattering, but these guys feel safe. These guys have you. These guys get it. But sometimes it's now back to you to almost teach them. I hate to say.
No, it's...
How you like it?
I love it. I think that, we can't be passive in this process. And I think that if you want something, you have to have an intention and you have to create it. Right. So I love what you said. I mean, I think what most women do, they go and open their own car door and say, why the hell didn't the man step up and be a man? And why didn't he pull out my chair? And why didn't,
Don't do it.
So it's, you get what you ask for. And some men will not step up. Some men won't.
Exactly. And then you'll know. You know what I mean? Because the good ones will instantly, like in 3 seconds. It's amazing. And the ones that don't are so far gone. You could see for what it is. Like I said, you just gotta know what it looks like from the other side. You know what I mean? Like you have to know how it works for it to work it. And what works for man is letting him, helping him even help you.
Yeah, I love it. Great conversation, Andre. We didn't get to a lot of what we were going to speak about today, but no, this is good. This is really good. I think that we can't say this enough. I think that this is such an area of confusion in the dating world today. Our culture is very confusing, and I think if more women listen to this show and start to let a man step up, let a man help you, let a man be a man, when you step into your feminine, it will change everything.
Oh, amen.
So, Andre, what's one thing you want to leave our audience with, one last statement before we get to where people can find you?
One last statement. I want to say, I think I want to sound the alarm, I call it, that, what's happening with my clients is that because the culture tells them you go girl first and, maybe you could do man and relationship and babies later. And what happens is, that setup doesn't work out well for most. Those are all my clients. So the idea of, I'd say, think of it this way. Do you want to be a career woman or a woman with a career? Two different ways of operating in the world. Most of my clients, interestingly enough, wanted to be women with careers, which means they would put family relationship first and then career secondary, right? So the focus was to build a family and create a life before the career life. You know what I mean? Women in our society now, in our culture, are taught from the kindergarten to go career first, career woman first, be strong, independent, powerful, so you're never vulnerable or stuck. I get it. However, family at 35 plus is very difficult for all bunch of reasons that we talk about on a different show because there's a lot. So a career woman, if you want to have a family and babies, you want to be a woman with a career first, as opposed to a career woman, because for most of my clients, it doesn't end up the way they want it. So some of them have lost their dreams of family because they bought into the culture. So my big statement is, do not buy into the culture. What is it that you want? Forget your mother, forget the culture, forget your teachers, forget your schooling. What do you want? Do you want family and kids? You have to focus on that intensively as you do your career life, but that has to be on the radar all the time and almost primary, part of. If you stick to money and career and schooling for 10 to 12, 15 years, and then you think later you're going to get that part done, it's tragic for a lot of my clients. That's all.
Yeah, same here. I have a 40-something, 41-year-old client right now who really wants a family, and she's focusing on it now, and I hope she can have it. But it's
late.
You got to set your priorities. Yeah, it is. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
I
had my last child at.
Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, I thought I was old at 28. It was like, I have to have kids now. But no, it's. I mean, thank God we have ways that people can start families later. But it's really the focus. It's a lot of people wake up one day and say, I forgot to get married, and all I did was focus on work, and it's not gratifying to only be working.
Exactly. For most women, it's not a full, complete, gratifying life. It's just not. You know, we have. Oh, they're all around me, all around you. I'm sure. I mean, that's and again, that's what that's the part that I keep blowing the sounding the alarm. The culture says that is the primary what you should do first, always. You know, forget men, forget babies. You know, and that's for most women not a good life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
Well, Andre, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation today, and tell everybody how they can find you.
Yes, so my website is called projectequinox.net. I also have a Facebook page called Project Equinox with Andre Paradis, and my podcast is on iTunes, Stitchers, SoundCloud, and Google Play, and it's called How the Culture Gets It Wrong with Andre Paradis, and this conversation about all the different layers that a culture really gets in the way. You'll get it. Just listen to it. It's interesting. I think it's very, very interesting and eye-opening.
Sounds awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on the show today and for the beautiful work you do out in the world.
Thank you so much. Same with you.
My pleasure. And and thank you, everybody, for listening today. If you love Last First Date Radio, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I hope you go on your last first date very soon. Have a great one.